Hello, dear friends. We are continuing our media forum of the People's Unity, National Unity Club. We have two guests. We have Larry Johnson with us, you know him well. And for the first time, we have Pepe Escobar. We have just tried to get to know which country he is from, and we found out that it was a futile effort because he is a man of the world who has visited different countries and lived in different countries of the world. He is a pilgrim. He is a pilgrim who is walking the world with an idea of peace. Dear friends, I suggest that we discuss one topic that is relevant to all of us. We all understand that there are tectonic geopolitical shifts in this world, and all tectonic plateaus have shifted, and periodically there are sparks and there's fire because of the friction. And we are going to discuss this tectonic element called Russia. Where is it moving, and where is its place versus other elements? If you have any question, you can ask it. Or I can speak on myself.
You want to start? Go ahead and start with Pepe, because he is the man of the world. my dear friend, a new brother that I've discovered.
Is that we were born in the same year?
Yeah.
Then, Pepe, maybe you would get started.
Okay. Please ask me a direct question.
Good. There is an opinion, and this is the opinion of analysts, not journalists, that at the forefront in global geopolitics, there are three superpowers. These are the United States, the Chinese People's Republic, and Russia. Russia is an old and new member of the club, or a new old member of the club. What do you think? I'll ask you in a straightforward way. We know from history that when there is a change in hegemony, usually that change takes place through a war. My question is, does the mankind have a chance to get transformed into a different state without a war?
It's an excellent question. And if you pose this question to the Chinese, they will say yes. And this is what we're trying to do. It's fascinating because the Chinese are turning the paradigm upside down geoeconomically, much more than geopolitically. The Chinese, they are not, let's say, unanimity across the whole planet. There's lots of diffidence, there's a lot of misinformation about China. But anybody in any part of the planet, when we look at literally the economic miracle of China, not only since the Deng Xiaoping reforms, but especially these past 25 years, that's it. It's their selling point. It's a winning club. So everybody wants to at least learn from it or be part of the club. And it's not by accident that they are the #1 trade partner with literally everybody all over the world. So you can imagine how the American elites and the ruling elites in the US, I'm not talking about messengers, politicians, the people who run the show in the US as well. Larry knows who these people are. And these people are always invisible. You never see them. They take the decisions in the background. And then they have the politicians to be their lowly messengers. They are terrified because what was supposed to be the new American century, the 21st, right after 9/11, it collapsed after a few years. First of all, because they picked the wrong enemy. Islam was not the enemy of America. As Russia and China were not the enemy, they forgot to focus on the peer competitors in the future. At the time they looked at China, no, okay, they're 10% growth, 11% growth, but it's still a poor country, backwards, etc. They copy everything. And they looked at Russia. As you know very well, Russia was literally destroyed at the start of the Putin. I remember I was here covering Putin's first election in 2000. And what I saw in Russia, I was terrified of that. You have to rebuild everything from scratch, literally, you know. So it's typical of hegemonic powers when it's hubris. No? They feel that they are invincible. So they picked, okay, let's start a war against Islamic radicals, which was not Islamic radicals, against Islam, in fact. In the end, we all know what happened. And now we have the unthinkable. We have Al-Qaeda in the White House, literally. So this image by itself destroyed the whole narrative of the war on terror. Meanwhile, Russia and China were following their national projects, rebuilding Russia, and China, okay, we're going to grow, no holds barred, and we're going to think later on about the details. When the Americans woke up, it was too late, because now they have, well, that's the cliche in geopolitics, the Mackinder cliche, the Brzezinski cliche. We cannot, we have to prevent the emergence of a peer competitor in Eurasia. And now you have a strategic alliance of peer competitors. How are you going to fight that? You can't. Starting with geoeconomics, you don't have a productive capitalist system. You have a giant casino. And in terms of the tariff trade tech war against China, you're being left behind because your idea of innovation is based on speculation. The big tech in Silicon Valley, they are mostly thinking about profits, essentially. So it's a very narrow-minded, let's say, I would say techno-feudalist mindset. I wrote about this in detail during COVID already. And during COVID, it was not as bad as now in terms of concentration of power in the hands of 5 or 6 techno-feudalists, and with direct access to the federal government in the United States. And in the case of Russia, I cannot even imagine, and Larry, obviously, he has a better insider view, people in the Pentagon with an IQ over room temperature. You know, there are lots of clever guys in the Pentagon. When they look at the hypersonic progress of Russia, and there's nothing that they have to go, right, even in parallel. They are 2 generations behind, or maybe even 3. And of course, Russia is not to be trifled with when there is a war going on. Now, people in the Pentagon are trying to start to understand the Russian military rationale to conduct the SMO. But now it's too late because the war is already lost. It's just a matter of time. So how, as a president, Trump, he can live with the management of this strategic defeat against Russia, because this is an American and vassal of America, European war against Russia in the Ukrainian terrain, where you're destined to suffer strategic defeat. How can you manage that? Impossible. And at the same time, how can you manage that you are starting to lose your traction in the tech war against China? So it's 2 strategic defeats side by side. So that's where we are. The only way out would be to provoke a war. But how? If the US cannot fight Russia and China individually, or much less as a strategic partnership. And that explains where we are now, and I would love to hear Larry talk about it, which is out of impotence. anger and resentment, the United States government under Trump is lashing out across the global south.
Yeah, well, let me jump in on this. 1990, 1991, Francis Fukuyama published an article called The End of History. What a stupid title.
Absolutely.
It should have been the beginning of history, because we were actually entering a new age, or at least the possibilities of a new age, where the United States had a chance to choose. Are we going to be a force for good in the world, where we're going to ensure that Russia, instead of collapsing into a state of complete misery, that we're going to build it up, help it along? Nah, Russia was a rape victim. We were going to rape it. We're going to exploit its resources. We didn't care how many Russians died. We didn't care how many Russians were impoverished. We were moving forward. But see, now we're at a stage where, and this gets into sort of Hegelian dialectics, that the United States' actions planted the seeds of its own destruction. As it financializes, it assumed that we're so powerful, we don't really have to work with anybody else. We'll control, we'll dictate. And we use the power of the dollar. We invaded Iraq in 1993. We went into Serbia, 1999, or former Yugoslavia. Again, you look back and say, for what? Then the invasion of Afghanistan after the 9/11 attacks, where there's evidence that the United States actually helped create that, to the invasion of Iraq in 2003, the complete rejection of Russia as a partner, despite Vladimir Putin saying, hey, can we join NATO? And we said, no, instead of joining NATO, we're going to launch a second Chechen war against you. So you had, Alexander, the right imagery. This shifting of tectonic plates. It started in 2015 with the formation of BRICS, I think in part a reaction to the Western coup in the Maidan. And so, but like any movement of tectonic plates, you get both an earthquake and you can get a tsunami. So not only is the earth moving, buildings falling, but then you get this wall of water rushing over the coastline. And I think that's what's actually we are on the precipice of witnessing, because Russia and China, over the course since February of 2022, they have awakened in a way that they never had before. They've developed a relationship that they didn't have before, in which they're now working together to create an alternative to the Western-dominated, the dollar-dominated economy and that international world economic order, where up until now, the United States could always order other countries, do this or else. Do this or we'll punish you. We'll starve your people. We'll collapse your economy. We'll destroy you. Now, you and I, in a past conversation, I think, articulately laid out that the Slavic mentality is different. It's not a zero-sum game. It's how can we collaborate together to survive? How can we work together? And so that's where we're at right now. And I guess I do fear, on the one hand, as the West contemplates its complete loss of control. I think part of what's going to bring home that message will be a financial crisis. And I think we're already starting to see it unfold in the West. Stock market dropped in the United States yesterday 500 points. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the end of it. Europe, across the board, is not economically strong. And meanwhile, we look at Russia, who, Biden said, oh, we're going to turn the ruble into rubble. Well, that didn't work out too well. Instead, Russia went, oh, okay, you're going to cut us off from the West? Fine. We're going to build our own 2 commercial jetliners. We're going to build more artillery shells than all of you, NATO and the United States, can make in a year. We're going to do more than you in 3 months. We've got this, Pepe pointed out, we got 4 varieties of hypersonic missiles. We've got a Oreshnik, which is in the hypersonic category, but is something completely different. The Burevestnik, the Poseidon. You know, Russia continues to make strides in weaponry, but also at the same time strides in rebuilding a society where now you have a solid middle class. And in partnering with China, which, as remarkable as the change is in Russia over the last 26 years, what China has done in the last 30 is we have nothing in history to compare it to.
Yeah.
And Pepe's he's traveled the length and breadth of China. So particularly I speak to Russians who are under the age of 40, you are living through a momentous time in history that is going to change the future. It is the birth of history, not the end.
Well, look here. I'd like to continue and building up on your words. I'd say that when we had that zero-sum game as a strategic nucleus, as a strategic core of the West, this is the game the West has been playing all the time. It was a pretty long time ago, about 20 years ago. Russia and China, or China and Russia, have been proposing a positive sum game. These are not analytical games. Russia and China have been talking about it publicly. I would like to add some correction to the past 20 years. It turned out that China and Russia, in order to reach the current status, have been doing their own jobs, so to say. China has been embarking on an economic and technological breakthrough, whereas Russia, I'd like to remind you which years I have in mind, and you will understand. 2008, August, 2014, spring, 2015, Syria, Georgia, Crimea, Syria, and 2022. Putin warned against it in 2007. It was in Munich. No other country has ever tried to stop the West physically on the battlefield. The things that happened in Georgia in 2008 are still misunderstood. It was a direct consequence of the NATO summit in Bucharest in 2007. The time distance is only a few months. What was declared at that NATO summit in Bucharest? If we translate it into geopolitical terminology, it was said that the Black Sea would be the NATO Sea. Do you remember the map before 2014? Turkey, Bulgaria, Romania, and Ukraine with Crimea, and Georgia with Abkhazia. And the Black Sea and Russia as a Black Sea power will disappear. This is what has been done with the Baltic Sea. Before Peter I, the Baltic Sea was called the Sweden Sea because Sweden used to own that territory, but now it is a NATO sea. And from the geopolitical perspective, that summit openly declared, you just need to listen carefully in a different way, that we are going to close down Russia's access to the West. The Black Sea is a NATO sea. The Black Sea would be a NATO sea. Here we have Ukraine, there we have Poland. So this would mean blocking Russia. Russia said no. And this is why this led to Georgian events, this led to Crimea, and the Baltic Sea is ahead of us. And what is the geopolitical sense? What are Putin and Chairman Xi talking about? None of them is trying to oust the United States from the world map. They are not saying that we have to dismantle the U.S., that we have to make sure that the U.S. is strategically defeated. The message is clear. The United States is a great country. Let it occupy its own place in the world, not somebody else's place. In order for this to happen, and this is what Putin and Xi are talking about, I have never seen any quote of this word. And there is a very clear practical application of his statement. Putin said that in December 2021 when he sent his offers to Washington and Brussels, and Chairman Xi said the same. There's Eurasia. It is our continent. It is not yours. And in order for everyone to occupy its own place, and I'm quoting him, I'm quoting Putin, in military infrastructure from the Eurasian continent, third countries' military infrastructure has to be removed from Eurasia. And there is only one country that has so many military bases, Mackinder and the Anaconda concept. We see that with our own eyes. Russia's proposal was to have that infrastructure removed and taken away. There was a suggestion that all nuclear powers should keep their nuclear weapons within the boundaries of their national territory. What does it mean for the United States? Do they have to collect their nuclear bombs from Turkey, Holland, Italy, and other countries and take them home? Yes, you have your own boundary limits and keep your weapons within your boundaries, not elsewhere in the world. That proposal was made, and Putin repeatedly said that we were not against the United States. We want everyone to play an equal role in the future concert of global powers. But there is one complexity. It is very hard to abandon what you already have. The United States has a global military infrastructure. Which United States president would go to the lawn in front of the White House and say, we are taking everything home? How long will he continue to be president? And this understanding is the basis of the attitude towards Trump, both in Russia and China. We have already said that we understand the challenges of his position, but at the same time we know that Trump doesn't like to wage wars. We have a unique situation. There are three global powers, Russia, China, and the United States. And all those three powers are led by Putin, Xi, and Trump. They're anti-militarists. Each of them can use military power as a tool. We are doing that. Trump is doing it. Xi doesn't. But, the night has not yet arrived, and as Russians say. And, sometimes we have people who are at the helm, who end up at the helm of governments who are crazy about wars and who want to shoot everyone down. And so we need to take advantage of the state of affairs. I am a proponent of an organic theory of society. A society is like a symphony, and we can talk about countries as human beings, because one of the root causes of the crisis was the arrogance displayed by the United States. Larry has just mentioned that we are not interested in what you think. But in order to go back to the peace, to the times of peaceful cooperation, you have to get rid of your pride, overstated pride. The leadership of the United States are declaring that they are Christians. Please think about being meek, and you have to accept the objective reality. It is hard. We know what it is. It was in 1991. We were superpower number 2, and we turned that status down, but we have rebounded. The same problem is being faced by the United States. China does not have this problem. They are not a Christian country. They have their own confessions and their own religions. But to have a positive-sum game is a situation where you cooperate. It must be a win-win game, so that the winner doesn't take all. The winner, everyone takes its own portion only, its equal portion. I do hope that our negotiations with the United States on Arctic go along these lines, because Arctic belongs to everyone. If Trump occupies Greenland and Canada, then it will be an equal split. But I think that we need to try to enter the next phase of humankind without a global war, without a world war. Your colleague Graham Ellison wrote a book, Descent to War, but he was writing about two countries, two sides, two parties, but there are three parties. Even if the United States wants to launch a war against China, it wouldn't be able to do that because we will standing by China. So rejection wars in a conscious and public way is a transition towards collaboration. And I believe that when Trump started talking about Monroe III doctrine, the first doctrine was developed by President Monroe himself. Then there was Roosevelt who developed Monroe II. And Monroe III is Trump's proposal to Putin and Xi Jinping. Propose your own Monroe doctrine, and we can reach an agreement, and there would be no friction. And then we can agree about what is on the edges. I see some chances, but I see a threat as well.
So let me close with this. We need to turn the world into Mamuka Pipia's Georgian restaurant's table. Genazvale. Everyone eats, everyone leaves full, and everyone leaves happy.
So it's the Georgia restaurant theory of politics.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, the only problem, a restaurant is a place where we get together with friends. But when there is too much cha-cha, a restaurant may turn into a battlefield.
We'll do the restaurant without the cha-cha.
Yes, good. I think it's a very good closing comment. Let's think about our joint get-togethers instead of taking food from somebody else's plate.
Yes, put more food on everyone's plate. Stop.
Well, essentially, this is the mindset of the hegemonic West for only 250 years in history. In historical terms, this is nothing. So this is their mindset. The end of these 250 years is now. And we could call an Eurasian mindset. It's the Russian mindset. It's across Central Asia and East Asia. This is the mindset. There is the idea of a community spirit and the idea of sharing. In the hegemonic powers in the West, they even lost it. They don't even understand this notion anymore.
We need to help them understand.
Yes, I helped them. Thank you.
Okay, we're clear.
So this was supposed to be 30 minutes, huh?